These VEL wheels must be the cheapest carbon road bike wheels you can buy right now. 2 years ago, David Arthur did a review on these. It was pretty much a copy and paste review for any sort of wheel set in that £1,000 category, Hunt, Scribe, whatever. But these just started hitting the headlines and getting your attention because they were on crazy offer on Sigma Sports and still are at some ridiculous prices. In fact, this wheel set was supplied to us by a customer who had a few too many drinks over Christmas and just on a whim thought, that's a hell of a bargain, I'm going to get myself a pair. Didn't know what to do with them, brought them to us and said, hey Paul, fancy reviewing these for the channel? I'm like, hell yeah. So I was intrigued as you were. How were they getting these to, these were like 350 quid, and I put a little YouTube short out and a lot of you are reporting picking these up for 400, 450, some absolutely crazy money. Got to be worth a look, which is exactly what we're going to do. Right. As always in this channel, we're going to go into the very, very fine details and give you guys some idea of what you can expect from owning something like this. You see, that performance, durability, cost ratio isn't in balance as much as we think, but whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we're going to let you decide at the end of the video once I've shown you all the details about this. And I want to start with spoke tension. So first of all, they're perfectly true, perfectly round, all that sort of stuff. And the actual spoke tensions are actually fairly well balanced. And we've just been using the Park Tool TM1, going through these and just checking them. Now, you will notice that I have a tyre on here at the moment. And that is because any wheel builder out there knows that when you're building carbon wheels, you really have to do the final tension with the tyre on, because once you've got the tyre on and pumped up, that can change your spoke tensions drastically. And this is exactly what has been going on here. So I've done this off camera and I've got the results for you down here. Now these are using the Pillar Wing blade, which is a thickness of 1.3 and a width of 2.1. So this device should be reading between 10 and 22 as our safe operating range for that spoke. And we are a fair bit under tension, albeit very, very equally under tension. So here we go. On the left-hand side, we're reading numbers between 8 and 9, which the average spoke tension of that is just 47 kilograms of force. And on the drive side, we're reading between 15 and 16, giving us an average of 89. So massively under tension. This is our operating range up here, 10 to 22. We are between 9 and 15, so right at the bottom end. So I'd like that to have a little bit more tension on than that, because at the moment, at 80 PSI, I think these spokes will start coming undone relatively quickly. I'm going to take this tyre off and show you the difference with the tyre off, and then I'll get an idea of what is going on here. If anyone's interested while I'm doing this, this is the Lifeline wheel truing stand. We kind of use them in the classroom here because we've got quite a few of them, and the guys are using the adapters, so I'm just using an Allen key, which is actually perfectly fine, but I'm not doing any truing work, so I don't need the adapters. Right, let's get this tyre off. Little quick side note while I'm doing this, the tyre was initially quite hard to get on, but then I realised it's because the tape underneath hadn't really been pushed down. So by the time I'd run my thumb over that tubeless tape and created a drop channel, the tyres went on and off very quickly. So if yours have been a bit of a fight to get on and off, just maybe make sure that tape is stuck down and not impeding that little drop channel a little bit. There we go, tyre off, no tyre levers. Okay, now let's have a look at the spoke tension without a tyre on, and I think it will make a massive difference. Okay, so that has made a massive difference. I'm going to flick through this quickly. Again, all our settings are the same. The non-drive side is now measuring between 10 and 11, 12. Giving us an average spoke tension of 54, and that drive side is now giving us a reading of 18 to 19, giving us an average tension of 111, which is a lot better. We're now well and truly sort of in the mid-range, or the lower third, if you like, of our potential spoke tension. Now, the problem with this is what they should have done is build the wheel, put a tyre on, bring it up to tension, to the lower end of what's acceptable, because then once you take the tyre off, which is going to happen, you're not going to exceed the spoke tension by taking the tyre off. There's actually plenty of scope there to do that. So really there should be another step in this build, which is fitting a tyre, bringing it up to pressure, and then doing your spoke tensions. Brands like Fast Forward, Percenti, I think Hunt sometimes do it, it depends. Read through their specs, it's definitely essential. Definitely all the big name brands will do this, because if we measure it, it'll all be sorted. This is actually a fairly common trait amongst budget wheels, where they just don't go that extra step. Okay, the next thing on these wheels is they are using aluminium nipples, which if you've been watching this channel, you know we're not a massive fan of using the combination of steel spoke, aluminium nipple, carbon rim, because of the galvanic corrosion. And if you live anywhere near like wet weather, wet climate, or you use these all seasons, and for this kind of price, it would be tempting to use it all seasons, then these aren't going to last you very long before they corrode. Now, I want to look underneath the rim tape. I've already done this, so I know what's going to show there, but I want to show you guys. So the rim tape they're using is just simple black Teffer tape, which is all good, and there's quite a lot of it. As you can see, they've definitely gone for a few wraps, and you can see why, because the first wrap, probably where the mechanics caught it with their fingers or something, they've just put a hole in it in a couple of places, so they've probably gone round with another wrap. So much tape. Okay, this is what I'm interested in down here, because I want to see how this has been constructed. Go. And if I shine light down here and get the GoPro on, you can just see in there, there's the spoke, and you can see it's using a steel nipple washer under there as well. Now, interesting, because you have to ask, why have they done that? If you think about the manufacturing process involved in this, and if you've ever seen the factories build wheels, it is very, very automated process. So putting a steel nipple washer in there is quite a fiddly little job, but they've obviously deemed that it's necessary with this. The reason you might use a nipple washer, so pro wheel builders would do it, because it does a couple of things. One, it creates a layer between an aluminium nipple and the carbon, so that's good. The other thing it can do is it can reduce some of the friction when you're actually bringing the wheel up to tension, and you want to build the wheel to a very high tension. You might use this so you don't get that binding onto the carbon, or you can use it to distribute the load of that spoke tension. For me, it always sets alarm bells ringing when I see it's on a budget wheel set, because it's another layer of labor intensive work that needs to be done, and it adds weight as well. So I'm wondering why it's in there, because there's no real reason for it to be there. In fact, some carbon wheels are better without them entirely. And when I come around and look at the spoke holes, I'm starting to get a good idea why, because these spokes don't line up particularly well. There are big gaps all over the place, and in some cases you can see little evidences of stress. Again, I'm going to try and use the GoPro here to show you. In contrast, I want to show you very quickly what a really good wheel would look like. I'm going to come back to our favourite Fast Forwards. These are the Riot 44s. And these are absolutely perfect. If you look down here, they do not use a nipple washer. It's just a brass nipple against the carbon surface. But if you look down there, you can see that it's a reinforced carbon surface. Now, what you can see here is the nipple perfectly centralized on all of the holes, and the spoke perfectly centralized in the nipple as well. There's no stress or strain in there whatsoever. So what are the consequences of this for you as a potential user of these? Well, definitely the possibility of spokes coming loose because they're not tight enough in the first place. But two, if you try to add more tension to it, I don't think the rim is strong enough to actually hold the required tension that these spokes demand. And that is why we're starting to see stress rises. So you're in a bit of a double bind really. You can try and bring the spoke tension up to stop your spokes always coming loose, but by doing so you might compromise the durability of the rim itself. So it'd be a tough decision to make actually if someone brought these into us to say my spokes are always coming loose. I mean, yeah, it's because they're a little bit on the low side in their tension, but I'd be looking at this evidence of stress and thinking I don't really feel happy going much higher with my spoke tension. So yeah, I think this is why they're probably being sold off, if I'm completely honest. There's probably not an awful lot of confidence in the durability of this design. Okay, let's have a quick look at the hub, because there's some interesting stuff going on here as well. I'm going to use our hub doctor tool, which is so cool. And there is our free hub body. Now, the first thing I notice is there is hardly any grease in this at all. In fact, there's no grease in it. That's incredible. Wow. That is a spacer, and we are using standard 6903 bearings. That's okay, and it seems to spin pretty well on those 6903 bearings. That's okay, and we'll take a closer look at this free hub. So here we have, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pulls, and each pull has got a little ridge of 3 on this. There's quite a lot of engagement points on this. This is all held together with like a plastic Delrin cup. That's interesting. Now, I had a look on the Sigma Sports website to see what spares were available, and there were some free hub bodies available. They're about 40 quid, which is a standard price for a free hub body. I'm okay with that, but there wasn't the full range of them available. Some of them are already showing as out of stock. You could also get end caps solutions, which is helpful as well, but what I didn't see was anything like this. I couldn't see this spacer, and these do often get chewed up and you'd replace it, especially if you've let your bearings wear down a little bit. I couldn't see an axle kit in there. So whether those spares are going to be available for much longer, I don't know. But yeah, I would be a lot happier putting some grease in there, I have to say. I've never seen anything quite as dry as that. On the inside here, there is a very, very fine ratchet. I wouldn't be surprised, without any sort of weather sealing, that it will not take long before dirt and grime gets in there and starts clogging up those very, very fine teeth and start making a real mess of this. So these are, I'd say, dry weather wheels only, really. Okay, I think we're at the point where we're at you get what you pay for type of argument. So I think what I'm going to do is put this away, have a look at some websites and see what else could you get for your money, and are these actually a good choice, because I'm not entirely sure. Okay, let's learn a bit more about VEL Wheels. First of all, if you just go to the VEL website, you don't get very much, to be honest. It does point you to their Facebook and Instagram and tells you they're a part of Sigma Sports. Great. Actually, checking out their Instagram is pretty cool because it gives you a great insight as to like what this brand is all about. And here we go. If there's ever a thing, Cannondale CAD 12, put on some big 80mm deep wheels on there. Fantastic. Have so much fun on that. Actually quite a good endurance bike type solution, because really deep section wheels, if you're a good bike handler, are fantastic. Once you get them spun up on a flat road, absolutely fantastic. That would make such an upgrade to a bike like that. And because they're relatively cheap, you could even get 2 pairs. So you could run something completely bonkers like that and then have another pair as well for, you know, windier days or hill climbing days or whatever. You get the idea. Crit racing is fantastic, you know, when it's like youth racing and you're constantly hitting pedals and wheels, and you know, fantastic. They're sort of cheap enough to replace in sort of crash situations. So looking at the Sigma Sports website, you can see they're nearly all on sale, and these prices have been fluctuating all over the place. The set that David Arthur reviewed, the 3850s, the mullet setup, so you've got a shallower section on the front wheel for anyone that is nervous about side winds. It negates that, but it still gives you the air advantage on the back. Personally, I think side winds don't really impact things too much anymore. I think we've got the hang of the rim profile, even on relatively cheap wheels. That being said, the sort of the lozenge shape, the more rounded profile shape definitely helps in crosswinds, and the pointier they get, the more sketchy they get. So these aren't the best that I think I've seen for that. The fast forwards, I ride the 55s in some really strong winds, absolutely fine. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. The best wheels I've ever encountered for a side wind are still the Zip 353, the 453, the 853, the NSW ones have been insane, because every wheel set almost rides like it's a shallower depth. So you could ride the 853s and they feel like a 400mm depth. You know, you can ride the 453s and they feel like a 300mm depth. They're a league apart. It's probably the only wheel set that I could get on and say that I could legitimately feel a difference. The reason I like the fast forwards is The rim profile I think is fantastic, and then all the durability equation comes back into play for me. So brass nipples, DT Swiss spokes, which are really easy to get hold of and replace, DT Swiss hubs, 2-year warranty, 2-year crash replacement, all those sort of things add up, and that equation between performance, durability and cost are kind of in balance in my mind with the fast forwards. I think with the VELs, you sacrificing some durabilities, but probably not missing out that much on performance. So for some of these prices, you can get several sets of these VELs for the price of a set of fast forwards. I don't know, everyone's got a different opinion on that. Just very quickly before we finish, I just want to go to the Merlin Cycles website and show you this, because the traditional benchmark upgrade wheel for someone that say brought a Cannondale CAD 12 or a Giant TCR, a benchmark road bike, 73 angles, whatever, would normally be, okay, I know the bike came with rubbish wheels, I want to upgrade them. And I'm pretty sure if you went for a ride with the cycling club, someone in the group who would say, get a set of Mavic Ceriums, that's the benchmark. And now look, these are 530 quid. And I have to say, these VELs would, if your goal was faster, higher performance for 500 quid, you are going to get significantly higher performance and speed out of a set of VELs than you are out of a set of Mavic Ceriums. As always, I hope that video was somewhat educational and useful to you, whether you're in the market for a new set of wheels or just here to learn about the sort of processes that we go through as a bike shop. And get down in the comments, and please don't just get down there and comment, actually read some of them, because I tell you, some of the comments from our very educated audience are really, really worthwhile reading. So yeah, please spend some time down there and add to the discussion. All right, take it easy until the next one.